Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, I want to take a look at a deck that did weirdly well at one of these Limitless online tournaments. These online tournaments with almost 1,000 people. And I'll tell you what, the number one deck in week 2, it was a fire deck. And fire decks are not exactly unusual, unforeseen, etc. But it was a fire deck that did not play a single copy of Reshiram and Charizard. Oh. It was Firebox. And that's a little bit weird to me, because it doesn't play the Pokemon we might be expecting it to play. But it does play what seems like almost every other fire Pokemon out there. Now, in terms of a main attacker, I think the closest we've got is Heatran GX, and I'm stretching a little bit here. There are 2 copies of Heatran GX. It's got the ability Burning Road, whereby once during your turn, when you move it from your bench to your active, you get to move a bunch of fire energy over. We've then got Free Energy 130, which is pretty good for taking out single prize Pokemon. Or for a minimum of 1 energy, you do 50 damage for each fire energy attached to this Pokemon. Oh, well that's not too bad. It's your once during your game big GX attack. And you are also playing a couple of other GXs, but this is most of the time gonna be your GX attack. Now, one of the other GXs you see is Cephalon. Cephalon is a pretty standard one of in a lot of these fire decks. The single energy Burn and Confusion is fine in an emergency early game, and the GX attack is alright. You discard one of your prizes. If it's an energy, you attach it to one of your Pokemon. It means that you can maybe get one more energy on the field early game, or... I mean, what I really like here is if you've got 1 prize left to take, you whack up Cephalon, and regardless of what your opponent's got in the active, you will win the game for a single energy. But most of the time, it's here for Mind Blown. You put any fire energy you like attached to your Pokemon in the Lost Zone, you deal 50 damage for each one put into the Lost Zone. But you'll notice we don't really have a main attacker here. Cephalon is great if you're willing to Lost Zone a bunch of energy on your field. Heatran is great if you can pile energy onto it. And this is how the deck keeps going. It is a deck built with answers rather than one big Pokemon. So we see Krammer V here, and I love Krammer V. Krammer V, you need to put free energy on, and then you need to discard all that energy, but you then do 160 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Do remember that an awful lot of people at the moment are still playing Dedenne, who is a 160 HP Pokemon that just so happens to give up 2 prizes. Well, that seems terribly convenient now, doesn't it? We've got Victini V that for 2 fire energy does 30 damage for each energy attached to both active Pokemon. So this can work nicely in a very similar way to Heatran. You pile energy on and smash. But then again, Heatran is a better version of that. Plus you've got the ability that moves the energy to it. Really, this is your opponent piles a bunch of energy on. Let's say a Pikachu and Zekrom with 6 energy on. Well, all of a sudden, you're doing 180 just from the energy they've put on. So if you put 2 energy on Victini, all of a sudden you're getting a 1-hit KO on a 6 energy Pikarom. That's where Victini V comes in. But speaking of Victini, we've also got Victini Prism Star. Victini Prism Star has a rather nice attack that, again, for 2 fire energy, shuffles all the basic energy from your discard pile into your deck, doing 20 damage for each one shuffled back in. So this is your I've used lots of energy, now I can take advantage of it kind of attack. And those are your attackers: Heatran, Cephalon, Krammer, Victini, and Victini. None of them are your traditional lead-off hitters, so to speak, but they all react to very different situations on the board, and between them, they've basically got an answer to everything. Now, there's a bunch of consistency Pokemon here. Obviously, we're playing Jirachi. When it's in the active, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, find a trainer card, put it in your hand, go to sleep, Retreat of Escape board. We've seen this before. There are 3 copies of Dedenne yourself. Discard your hand, draw 6 cards. Dedenne's pretty good. And then we've got 1 copy of Oricorio GX. If you had a Pokemon KO'd last turn, draw 3 cards. It's not necessarily a single prize deck, so you're not going to get as much mileage out of this as you would a bunch of other decks, but it still draws you 3 cards after a KO. That's still pretty gosh darn good. And then we see a 2/2 Ninetales list, which I suspect is probably the reason why fire decks are still so gosh darn good. Because Ninetales lets you discard 2 cards from your hand, drag one of your opponent's bench Pokemon into the active. It means you can always take out your opponent's bench. It means if they've got lots of energy on a bench Pokemon, bring it up and KO it with Victini. It means if they're building up a Pokemon which can't be taken out by GXs, bring it up and take it out with Victini Prism Star, etc. It means bring something in the active with a high retreat cost and then sniping around it with Krammer V. It means you can really take advantage. And this is not your traditional, I'm going to get energy on Reshiram and Charizard and smash kind of fire deck. This is a tricksy, reactive kind of fire deck. And having something like Ninetales to Gust is a really, really nice option. Now, in terms of trainer cards, obviously we're playing for Welder. This is very much a Welder box deck. When you play Welder, you attach 2 fire energy to one of your Pokemon and draw 3 cards. And you'll notice that Victini's, both of them, are 2 energy attackers. Krammer is 3 energy, Welder and attach from hand. And Heatran is 3 energy, Welder and attach from hand. You're not relying on 4 energy attacks here, and that's somewhat deliberate. Now, going along with Welder, we got a couple Pokegear 3.0, so you can find that Welder when you need it. And we've also got ourselves a copy of Palpad, so you can recover that and have 2 more in your deck for the game. That's a good thing. We like this. Now, we've also, in terms of supporters, got nothing. We have no other supporters. We are purely here going for Welder, and it really is Welder or bust. But between your Pokegear, your Jirachi, your Dedenne, your Oricorio, etc., you should be able to find your Welder when you need it. In terms of Pokemon search, we've got 4 copies of Quick Ball. You're playing an entirely basic deck other than Ninetales, so Quick Ball becomes awesome. And as for Ninetales, you're playing 2 copies of Pokemon Communication. Lets you swap a Pokemon in your hand for a Pokemon in your deck. Doesn't just get Ninetales, but it is your way of getting Ninetales here. Now, we do play a full 4 copies of Switch, and the reason is extremely simple. You're playing Jirachi, a Pokemon you need to get in and out of the active very quickly, but you're also playing lots of weird attackers that work in specific circumstances, so it's very likely you'll have to be swapping your attackers around on a fairly regular basis, so Switch becomes awesome, and obviously 2 copies of a skateboard for Jirachi. In terms of specific fire tricks, we've got a copy of Fiery Flint. Discard 2 cards from your hand, search for 4 fire energy, and a couple copies of Giant Half, which lets you discard 1 card from your hand to search for 2 fire energy. It's exactly half. Speaking of which, we've also got 1 Heat Factory Prism Star. Discard a fire energy from your hand, draw 3 cards. Remember that all these cards we've got that discard fire energy will be fueling up your Victini Prism Star, which is very much a good thing. And still in stadiums, we've got 1 copy of Lysander Labs. It just turns off tools. And yes, it'll turn off your own escape board for Jirachi, but it'll turn off your opponent's Jirachi's escape board if they're relying on it more than you. It will turn off Spell Tag in Psychic decks to stop them dropping extra damage, and so on, and so on. And then just 1 copy of Reset Stamp. Reset Stamp makes your opponent shuffle a hand into their deck, draw a number of cards equal to their remaining prizes. I mean, yeah. It's a one-of in basically every deck, unless you're playing more than a one-of. Very simply because it can slow your opponent down, it can punish them for a fast start, etc. Very nice card, sees a huge amount of play. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That is the Firebox deck. Now, it was actually played by Masato Shimada to literally a first seed finish, really, in the Limitless qualifier number 2. A really, really good finish. We did see Pavel Nechav, get a 4th place finish with the same deck. These Firebox decks are coming around again, and they no longer need Reshiram and Charizard to go and be particularly successful. Though I should mention the 4th place deck did play Reshiram and Charizard. So there we go. And now it's over to you. I want to know what you think about this deck. I want to know how much you like it. I want to know if it's as good as I think it is. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, me nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, or you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WasiPlays, where you can find out about a whole bunch of games that don't have Pokemon in, but are pretty gosh darned awesome nonetheless. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourself till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.